Hi everybody, it is April and today we are going to apply the KISS theory to quilting. I don't know if you've heard of the KISS theory before, but in my line of work it means keep it simple, stupid. Keeping it simple means that when we do programming, we don't make things difficult or complicated. We try to keep things simple, and they are easier to maintain, they take less time to write, and they make more sense. So I've decided I want to apply that theory to quilting. Oftentimes we feel like we need to do some over-the-top great design so that we can show that we really do know how to quilt. But there are times when a KISS quilt is in order. If you are in a hurry, if you have fabric that you want the fabric to be the star of the show and not necessarily the design that you use to put your fabric together. There are so many quilt patterns out there that are simple. You don't even have to buy them. You just know what they are, and they don't take so long to put together. So you don't have to worry about necessarily making a mistake, putting a piece in a wrong place. And that is what I'm going to do today. My KISS quilt is a 10.5-inch square quilt. A friend of mine needed a quilt that was 60 by 80. So I thought, you know what? The perfect design is 10.5 inches. I can do 6 blocks across, 8 blocks down, a little border, and life is good. So what did I do? I didn't have to buy a pattern. There is no pattern. It just, it's 10.5-inch squares. I couldn't use a layer cake because it's 10.5-inch squares, not 10-inch squares. So there are multiple ways that you could cut up your 10.5-inch squares. You could use a 9.5-inch ruler. That's not gonna work. Now what did I do with my ruler? You can use a 10.5-inch square ruler. You can use your handy dandy normal ruler. Because this one is only 8.5 inches, I would have to use it in coordination with another ruler. I would use this ruler to measure my 10 inches and then use this ruler to actually cut, or vice versa. You can use your shape cut ruler and cut on the 10.5-inch line, or any other type of ruler that you have that enables you to cut 10.5-inch squares. Let me show you the fabric that I'm going to use for this quilt. I have this pretty light pink. I don't know who made it. I can never find some on a solid, the manufacturer. If you all know how to find the manufacturer on a solid where you didn't keep track of it, is it somewhere here on the selvage and I just can't see it? Let me know. Then I have this rosebud print by Maywood Studios. And then I have this pattern by Northcott, and it's called Bliss. It's one of the color variations. It's pretty simple. Let's go through how I cut my fabric. Here I have my pink fabric, and I'm going to lay it out on my table. So we have multiple options. I can use my square ruler, and this will give me the 10.5 inches. Of course, I want to make sure that my line is straight before I cut. And then I can just have a straight ruler and put it next to this ruler. And then use my rotary cutter and cut. If I don't have a fancy square ruler, I can use one ruler to line up on the 10.5-inch mark, and I'm sorry about the glare, and then use the other ruler to again push up next to the end of this ruler and cut my 10.5-inch strip. Now then we have to subcut, or I can take my shape cut ruler and line up on the 0 mark, just making sure that the edge of my fabric is nice and straight. So this end needs to be on the 0. And then I have a 10.5-inch mark. I'm sorry for the glare. So I will place my rotary cutter in the groove for the 10.5 inches. And then I have a 10.5-inch strip. Once I press this, if you want to press it, it will probably be a little easier to get accurate cuts if you press it. But you know, I'm not gonna judge. So now I can take my 10.5-inch ruler or whatever particular ruler I'm going to use in order to cut my 10.5-inch squares, and I can cut, trim off the selvage, and I have a 10.5-inch square. Now that all my 10.5-inch squares are cut, I'm going to go to the design wall and I'm going to lay them out in an arrangement that I think works well. And I'll step back and look a little and, you know, rearrange until I get exactly what I want. Now, the last fabric that I showed to you, I don't have as much of that as I do the pink and the rosebud. So I had to kind of intersperse those blocks throughout the quilt. So I cannot hang a row of 6 blocks on my design wall straight. I have sewn several of the rows together. So let me finish sewing all my blocks together. All my rows are sewn together. Now I'm going to put them together. If you see 2 like blocks next to each other, don't tell me. I don't want to know until, you know, I'm done. I'll probably see it when I'm quilting it. And then my quilt will be ready to go. My quilt top is complete. When it comes to Kiss quilt patterns, that doesn't necessarily mean there aren't some challenges. So yes, you cut 10.5-inch squares and you just line them up. One challenge is if you're trying not to have any 2 squares touch each other that are alike. Yeah, I failed that one. Have you ever noticed, do you look at a particular side of your quilt? I think I tend to look at the left side of my quilt. I don't know why. Do you look at a particular side or do you look at the whole thing? And maybe I was just blocking it because I didn't want to deal with it. But I can live with that. The other thing about this Kiss quilt pattern is there are a whole lot of seams to match on this. So I think I might do an alternate Kiss quilt pattern where I line it up so they're just off a little. I think that would be fun, and then I wouldn't have to match all those seams. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, eat some chocolate, and be kind to everyone. Until next time, bye. There are so many, and then because this one's only, or vice, oh my gosh. Then I have this rosewood print. Then I have this rose, and it's not even rosewood. So, yep, you cut and